Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's special presentation of our Stage Stories program from the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts in Beverly Hills. Except today we're via Zoom. I'm Mark Slavkin. I serve as Director of Education at the Wallace. And our organization, which is privileged to occupy the historic Beverly Hills Post Office, as well as a state-of-the-art theater in the backyard of the post office. In addition to all the music, dance, theater, film we present in our theaters, education is a central part of our mission at the Wallace. We really believe that everyone has a right to participate and grow in and through the arts. In fact, Grow at the Wallace is the name for our education and outreach programs that we're proud to offer. Our programming is for people of all ages, but in the last couple of years, we've received great encouragement and support from our friends at the National Guild for Community Arts Education and their partners at Lifetime Arts to really take a look at what we do offer for older adults and see if we couldn't expand those offerings. And thanks to the leadership and creativity of my colleague, Deborah Pascaret, who you'll meet in a moment, we've been proud to offer a series of new classes serving people ages 55 and older. Stage Stories, which we present this morning, called Stage Stories because the idea of the class was to give people a chance to write their personal stories and then present them literally on stage in our Lovelace Studio Theater. But during this pandemic, the stage isn't available, so Zoom provides today's stage. And Zoom also allows us to include people from far and wide, beyond Beverly Hills and Los Angeles, but we hope there are people in other parts of the country or even the world who have joined us. And I think you'll agree that the participants have done a fantastic job writing their stories to capture the humor, the pain, the sorrow, the silliness, the whole range of human experience as these participants have brought to life in their pieces. So with that, let me turn it over to my colleague, Deborah Pascaret, who both designed and leads these new programs and has really done a masterful job creating a safe space for people to explore their own creativity and also feel connected to a community of their peers. And at this time of isolation and often loneliness, the connections are more important than ever. So let me turn it over to Deborah. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I'm not sure that I can be seen. Let's see. I'm not sure if everyone's seeing me. This is the fun of, okay. Hold on one moment, everyone. I am so sorry. Let's
yeah, I think you're good.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully, no, I'm still not seeing myself. I am so sorry, everyone. Technical help, can you? Okay, all right. So it doesn't matter if I can't see myself, it's fine. So I wanted to welcome everyone to our Stage Stories presentation this morning. I am so excited to have these storytellers spend some time with you today. For the last 10 weeks, we've been meeting every Thursday morning on Zoom and beginning to explore all sorts of stories that they have to tell. And you'll see today, there are stories that are hilarious, there are stories that are poignant, there are stories from all parts of their lives. And I'm just so incredibly blessed to be able to be in this environment with them and to hear their brave and courageous storytelling. And so after the show, we will have a short question and answer. So if you have any questions, please go to the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you'll be able to type in questions and I can tell the performers at the end. So without any further ado, please sit back, relax, and let these beautiful words wash around you with the stories from Stage Stories. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Otto, and this is Winnie's story. Winnie was my grandmother on my father's side. She was the daughter of an Iowa music teacher and a Maine lobsterman. Her given name was Wilma, but to everyone she was simply Winnie, pronounced like Jimmy. She was my father's stepmother. If not for her, I doubt my family would exist. My grandfather was a successful Chicago businessman. In 1931, he was happily married with a wife he loved and 4 kids. They all lived in a big house in Chicago with a maid and a cook. Then tragedy. In that year, his wife died giving birth to their 5th child. Both mother and baby perished. At first, a distant relative, Aunt Ida, came to help watch the kids. She was elderly and before long fell ill. So she called upon her niece, Winnie, to take over. Winnie was 26, unmarried, and quite attractive. But it was the depths of the Great Depression. Evidently, watching 4 young kids was the best opportunity open to her. She was 16 years younger than my grandfather. The introduction of another new adult into the home was hard for the 4 kids. Relations were on and off, as one uncle put it. Even so, within 5 years, she and my grandfather were married. They had a child. It would be their only child. My grandfather died from a stroke only a few months after Winnie gave birth. In those days, an unemployed, destitute widow with 5 children had few options. It was not uncommon for families to be broken up. Indeed, on the other side of my family, in a nearly identical circumstance, that is precisely what happened. And that is what our new in-laws offered Winnie, to break up the family. She refused. She took all the children, hers and his, to a family home in Iowa to live with her clinically crazy mother, who, for example, broke into my father's possessions when he was away at the war and scattered them about. She would demand a kid get the belt for the most minor infraction. I try to imagine it now, and it still amazes me. 4 rebellious kids, not even her own, a little baby, an insane mother. She stuck with it. Just to give a sense of how demanding those first years were, there is the story of my father's younger brother who became so uncontrollable that instead of high school, he was sent to a military academy. This came to an abrupt end when the academy's commandant called to offer condolences on the last loss of his grandfather, who was, of course, very much still alive. So the uncontrollable kid was sent back home. Soon enough, the war came and went. The boys who served survived, and everyone got through college, got married, and started families of their own. Something in growing up together as they did made my father and his siblings very tight. Through all the following years, they talked to each other, kept up with each other's lives, and visited as often as they could. Those children of my grandfather, all of them, gave me lots of cousins to grow up with, and who have always been my family. What impels this story is the end of Winnie's life. She had a severe stroke that made her an invalid for the last 10 years of her life. I am unsure how much attention she received from her adopted children, but it did not seem to be a lot. They attended her funeral and quickly returned to their jobs and families. I am pretty sure I'm the only one of their families who attended her interment, which followed the service by a day or 2. What struck me was that when the minister asked the assembly of about 20 people if anyone wanted to say a word, no one did, not even me. That silence led me in the 20 years since then to start paying more attention when my father and his siblings would talk about their life with Winnie. They began to recognize how much they owed her. It made me realize the sacrifices she made and in turn made my family possible. You remember I mentioned the other side of my family? On that side, the story was so different. The father died and the mother just could not care for all 4 kids. So the 2 oldest went to an orphanage. Whatever followed, that family, as far as I know, is scattered to the winds. And I'm in touch with just 2 cousins, and they mostly don't have much contact with the rest of the family. So now, here I am, deeply in her debt, doing my best to make up for having nothing to say on behalf of a woman about whom much should be said and from whom much can be learned, and who is the reason I have a family. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Sandra, and I'm reading Becoming a Lawyer in 1967. Yes, 67. I was 25 and a newly minted lawyer. This beautiful spring day in 1967, I walked up the steps of the Superior Court in Van Nuys. I was there to request a continuance in a case that my boss was litigating. Since this was a routine matter, he sent me, his young associate, to make the appearance. I knew that court could be very intimidating because I too had seen many riveting court dramas. Even though I had been to court 4 other times, the real thing always made my heart beat faster. Maybe it was because I was so full of enthusiasm to start practicing my new profession. I was so full of lofty goals. I was the daughter of the 60s and filled with the ideas of women's liberation. But I knew I was stepping on the heavily defended ground of the male bastion of the law and the old boy network. All that I had already learned through my many, many hostile encounters in law school. I walked jauntily up the courthouse steps in my high heels and my very proper dark suit, which I had chosen because of its beautiful dark red wine color. I was feeling confident, yet nervous. I knew the drill: check in with the clerk, file the papers, get the number that the clerk assigned to my case on the calendar, and wait my turn. But I knew each time something unexpected always happened. I was prepared for something, but clueless as to what it would be. I took my seat in the courtroom, awaiting my turn. The clerk called my case, and I proceeded to the bar, an area just in front of the judge's bench, reserved for lawyers and parties to the lawsuits. Good morning, Your Honor. I am Sandra Cohn, representing the plaintiff in this case. I'm here today to ask the court to continue the trial to a date about a month or 6 weeks from now. The attorney for the defendant is not opposing my motion, and in fact, he has provided me with the dates that he is available. At this point, the judge interrupted me, and in an angry, accusing voice, he started to bellow, "Would you just leave this courtroom right now and go back to your office and tell the lawyer that you work for that he should make the appearance himself and not send his secretary?" I looked at the judge in the eye, and with defiance, I said, "Your Honor, I am a lawyer, and just a minute." And as I opened my purse, I found my wallet and in a dramatic gesture, held up my bar card. As the judge's face reddened, I said, "Wouldn't it have been much easier to ask to see my bar card than accuse me of misleading the court?" At that point, the judge said only 2 words to me: Motion granted. And then he said, "Court is adjourned for lunch," and banged his gavel. I slowly gathered up my belongings, putting my bar card back in my wallet and taking time to gather my composure. I smiled, thinking that I had the chutzpah to speak courteously but firmly to the young judge. I also thought that I won my motion without even giving any arguments. I was proud of myself. I headed over to the clerk's desk to get the continuation date and the signed order. As the clerk handed back the papers, she said to me, "The judge would like to talk to you in his chambers." As I walked into the chambers, I was fairly confident about what would happen next. The judge gave himself away when his face turned red with embarrassment. I took a seat and waited. It took only a moment for the judge to come into the room and wish me good morning and then say, "I am sorry for what I said to you. I want you to know that this is my first day as a judge, and I thought my friends must be playing a joke on me. I also wanted you to know that you have taught me a lesson, that this will never happen again in my courtroom." I flashed him a smile and said thank you and walked out. I walked away even happier than before. It was a double win. I was proud of myself and proud of the judge for admitting he was wrong. I am still not sure that I believe that he thought his friends were playing a trick on him. He was probably just saving face. But after all, it was the 60s and the times, they were a-changing. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Angie. My story is Into the Unknown. It is easy to leap across the chasm of the unknown if you don't look down. I had just accepted a teaching position at a new school when my boyfriend announced that he was going to volunteer on a kibbutz, which is a communal agricultural settlement. Though during our 22-month relationship, we'd only been seeing each other every second or third weekend, the prospect of being apart for several months left me stunned, speechless. My heart pounding, I made that leap into the unknown. And 3 months later, we were both on our way to Israel. I remember well the channel crossing, which was typically rough, with heaving waves causing heaving stomachs. We braved the damp, windy air on deck to quell our queasiness. Train delays gave us only 2 hours in Venice before we had to board another ferry. Though on board we ate unimaginative Greek food washed down with glasses of ouzo, we enjoyed picture postcard scenery by day, which was replaced at night by a spectacular show of millions of sparkling stars in an ink-black sky. 4 days after leaving Italy, we docked in Haifa. We went first to Jerusalem. This afforded us the first of many opportunities to experience the reckless nature of Israeli bus drivers. In Tel Aviv, we selected our kibbutz, then braved another bus ride. We entered our new home, kibbutz En Carmel, hot, tired, dusty, having dragged our bags along a winding dirt road past fields and orchards. We stared at a collection of low concrete buildings. Late afternoon, the kibbutz was deserted. A young man on a tractor materialized, and led us to 2 rows of rather dilapidated chalets, which housed the other volunteers who gathered, curious, to greet us. We were shown to a room in a block of 6. We had been forewarned that kibbutz accommodations would be primitive, and they were. Though the room inside was whitewashed, the tiled floor was filthy. Along with a single screened window, a small table, and a wardrobe was an abundance of cobwebs, dust, and beds. We soon swapped one of the 2 beds for a bright green chair, which added color to the room. Between the 2 blocks were the communal bathrooms, each consisting of a single shower, often lacking hot water, a wash basin, and a toilet, also not always reliable. The problematic plumbing on the kibbutz kept the resident plumber in permanent demand. Supper that night, as on most evenings except Fridays, was fresh vegetables, cheese, and bread. I tasted my first avocado, to which sadly I took an instant dislike. Afterward, everyone carried chairs from the dining room onto the spacious lawn, where, accompanied by a chorus of chirping crickets, I experienced cinema under the stars for the first time. We were startled awake early the first morning by a low-flying crop duster to find the kibbutz already up. After breakfast, which was leftovers from the previous night, plus fresh-cooked eggs and coffee, the volunteer coordinator plied us with information and necessities such as toilet paper, a lamp, electric kettle, and took us to the laundry to be issued with bedding and work clothes. I spent the rest of the morning thoroughly cleaning our room. With a few maps on the walls, our first home together now looked habitable. That afternoon, we hiked to the beach, back past the cotton fields, across the Tel Aviv-Haifa road, then through dry, dusty scrub that happily yielded to pale, soft sand. The calm blue Mediterranean was warm and clear, so refreshing to swim in. Next morning, this time awoken by birdsong, we started work. My boyfriend was assigned to the cotton fields. I, however, was sent to the kitchen to wash dishes. It was hot, arduous work, relegated only to the volunteers. The dishes from 300 people were washed by hand in 2 enormous sinks, then conveyed through streams of boiling water and steam to finally be stacked on shelves to dry. I was relieved that a few days later, I graduated to mopping floors. Over time, I worked in a variety of jobs, from picking fruit to stomping cotton, and eventually landed a steady gig in the clubhouse, which was open each evening for socializing and light refreshments. We moved into a larger room with its own bathroom and adopted a kibbutz cat we named Kluki. The hard work was offset by a variety of leisure activities, and we made many friends. Life was very pleasant, and we were in no hurry to leave. Then, in the autumn of 1973, the Yom Kippur War broke out, and all that changed. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Anita, and I'd like to tell you about one insignificant decision I made. I often marvel at how one seemingly insignificant decision can change the trajectory of your life. How would your life be if you went left instead of going right? When I got to middle school and discovered that you had to dress for gym, I hated it. I know that's a strong word, but that's how I felt, and I still do. Maybe it's the whole new world of transitioning from elementary to middle school. Whatever it was, I hated the whole process of going to the locker room in the middle of the day, strip for gym, as we used to call it. Do your sports activity, then shower, get dressed, and on with the rest of your classes. I hated having to bring my clothes to school, carry them around in my gym bag. You had to sew the gym bag in the home economics class. Remember home ec? Of course, your clothes would be wrinkled from the gym bag, or you could iron and fold them so you wouldn't look like some sort of ragamuffin. And they didn't look like the stylish sportswear that we wear now, just rough, dry cotton, white top and green bottoms with plain white tennis shoes. No Air Jordans, no Skechers, plain. I laugh now at how sneakers are such a fashion item with folks now. When I got to high school, I had accepted this ordeal. But one day, my lot changed. I saw some students dressed in military uniforms marching on the field. Huh? What was going on here? Students fully clothed, practicing marching drills? Reserve officers training class? What was that? No gym clothes? No changing in the locker room? I had to check that out. Before I knew it, the first opportunity I had, I selected that class as an elective. I was in ROTC for 2 years. It was fun too. From what I remember, we learned military history, protocol, hierarchy, chain of command, and all of the cool marching drills and formations. We also participated in marching drill competitions with other schools. I even had the opportunity to ride in a military helicopter. Fast forward 2 years after my high school graduation. I was naive and did not want to go to college. My thinking, I already went through 12 years of school, but I certainly wasn't making much money working retail. One day, my friend Verna and I was dreaming about what we wanted to do with our lives. Cue the Marine Corps recruiter with the persuasive sell. We were invited to enlist on the buddy plan. We both took the test, but Verna failed. I passed. My dilemma was, do I still want to enlist? The recruiter interjected, Anita, only 1 in 17 women are selected to be devil dogs, leathernecks, the few, the proud, the Marines. Hoorah! The uniforms were so cool too. Boy, I ate that up hook, line, and sinker. I sheepishly said yes. I was a little scared because I had never been away from home. I did, however, always dream of traveling. When I got home that afternoon, my father was shocked. You did what? You enlisted in the Marine Corps? My dad was an Army veteran and knew firsthand the rigors of military life. The only thing that saved me from my father's wrath was that in the 70s, women Marines were not allowed to go into combat fields. Overall, my time in the military was very rewarding. That being said, at times it was a challenging experience as women in that male-dominated world. See, women enlisting in the military was not a common occurrence back then. We were not readily accepted, just tolerated. And you never let a male Marine call you the nickname BAM. It was short for broad ass Marine. As women, you really had to stand up for yourself physically and mentally and prove that you are as proud and professional and belonged in that organization as much as your male counterpart. Looking back now, some 40 years later, that insignificant decision reaped major life benefits. I happened to be stationed in a far, far away country, North Carolina. I grew up and matured. I met some wonderful friends and colleagues from all over the country. I met a girl from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I met a girl from Philly. I remember she liked playing the numbers. And a girl from Worcester, Mass, with a heavy Boston accent. I was assigned to the payroll department and was introduced to my career in finance and accounting. I met my husband, eventually having 3 daughters with him. I was honorably discharged at the end of my 3-year enlistment. We bought a home, went to college, and graduated all through the benefit of the GI Bill. After enlistment, I fulfilled my love of travel with road trips around the United States, international travel to Europe, Africa, Canada, Mexico. I had an exciting and interesting career in finance and auditing, retiring in 2018 with 38 years of federal service. Thinking back on those 3 years so long ago, my knees may complain now, but back then, I was a lean, green fighting machine. When recounting these memories to family and friends, it was brought to my attention that I had actually traded one uniform that I hated for another that I loved. I know I would have been successful in life had I not made that insignificant decision, but the one I made had quite an interesting trajectory. All of that and more I have experienced in my life just because 40 plus years ago, I decided that I did not want to dress for gym. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sunny Hilden, sunny with a U, like the weather. My piece is called She Decided. Prologue. I've driven down Santa Monica Boulevard, past the Beverly Hills Post Office, many times over the years, on my way to Grammy events at the Century Plaza, or to roller skate at the beach, or to sing or lead big bands for charity galas at the Pretty Woman Hotel, where Wilshire Drive and Rodeo Drive meet as if a grand waltz is about to begin. That post office was old in 1933, but cherished like a great-great-grandmother, like Beethoven's pen and Brahms' glasses that I marveled at in museums in London after playing oboe and singing there on tour. When big boards went up around the Beverly Hills post office, covering the whole block as if it were about to be destroyed, the glorious patrons of the arts made sure to save the best of history as they remodeled the world. Love letters had flowed in and out of there like the breath of life. Patrons of the arts notice things like that, honor them, collaborate with them. The lofty lobby remained regal, immense, welcoming, magically morphing into the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts, full of even more freedom of expression. Stephen Schwartz taught me from the stage how his songs became musicals that flew my soul like a pilot. Hershey Felder became Leonard Bernstein at the grand piano, zooming us to New York. And then he became Beethoven, zooming us to Vienna, to odes of joy after joy. The Wallace still zooms me all around the world, up into outer space and back and forth through time, even now in quarantine. Her plush, comfy seats are empty, silent, waiting. Just for a while, we hope. Just for as long as it takes, we trust. The seats and stage are patient, like we are, waiting, full of faith, like bulbs in the ground under snow. We grow at the Wallace, no matter what. We've been planting ourselves, my classmates and I, together apart online every Thursday, tending to each other's needs, moving each other into the light. The following is one of the pieces I wrote from one of the prompts Deborah gave us for homework. The prompt was, when I look at the blank page, ... That's it. That's it. But what a compass, pointing us to our own creativity, our own muse. Some writers, even best-selling authors, say they look at a blank page with dread or doubt. But with friends, in a class, or just on planet Earth, I'd rather see it as a gift, an invitation, a love letter. So here's my reply. It's called She Decided. When I look at the blank page, I feel the tree she used to be, looking up in awe of me and my pen. When I look at the blank page, I thank the tree she used to be, all her rings, her history. Way back when, she decided every dawn's a miracle. She decided looking for the light. So misguided by Mother Nature's falling leaves, she decided her story's meant to write. When I write on the blank page, I grow the tree she used to be, branching out as wild and free as we choose. When I write on the blank page, I show the tree her bravery, go out on a limb for me and my muse. She decided every day's a miracle. She decided every night's a friend. So misguided by Father Time's dim falling stars, she decided her story has no end. She was planted in the ground as a tiny seed, so in the dark, so full of need. She dreamed deep inside the earth, like a child inside a womb, like a child needs more room, like a soul leaves a tomb. She decided everything's a miracle. She decided love is everywhere. Angel guided through all the times life cut her down. She decided her story is a prayer. Thank you, winter. Thank you, spring for all. Thank you, summer and every kind of fall. Thank you, wonder, kindness, and love. Thank you for all the ways we all rise above. She decided again and again to say thank you. Amen. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rosemary, and I'm going to read a story titled Pets I Have Known. My brother decided we should get a seal point Siamese cat. He named her Kiko after a Playboy playmate. Boys. I like Siamese. They talk back. They think they're the boss. Kiko got in trouble one day, and my mom put her in the bathroom for a timeout. Well, the indignity of it all. She proceeded to have a temper tantrum. She was growling and meowing, and there was a lot of bumping and crashing going on. When my mom opened the door to see what Kiko was doing, Kiko wouldn't even acknowledge her, but with a hump back, she stiffly walked out of the bathroom, looking a little disheveled and still talking to herself, and maybe a few thorny comments about us. When we looked into the bathroom, there were all kinds of things out of place, tipped over, or fallen to the floor. Kiko had totally shredded the pink rose-shaped bath sponges. The room was covered with a layer of pink sponge snow. My mom never put Kiko in timeout again, or at least not in the bathroom. Great Aunt Estella sometimes dropped by. She had her hair pulled back into an enormous bun on the back of her head. Kiko, perched on the arm of the couch, rocking in preparation for a big leap, and staring at the bun, waiting for it to make a move. Suddenly, Mom jumped out of her chair, grabbed Kiko, and quickly took her out. Mom saved the day. I don't know how we would have explained that we had an attack cat. One year, I got a parakeet for my birthday. His name was Stormy because it was a very stormy day when my Aunt Wilma brought him up from Lewiston. I worked on teaching the parakeet to talk. I was told that male parakeets do talk. Stormy liked it best when he was out of his cage. My brother would put a yardstick on the table and Stormy would push it to the edge until it fell off. He would cock his head and look and watch it go down. Bravo, Stormy. One day he flew out the front door and landed high in the blue spruce tree in front of the house, his green feathers fading into the foliage. I thought we had lost him for sure, but finally he flew back down. I think he was thrilled with his big adventure, but it's hard to tell when a bird is grinning. I was not at all successful in teaching him to speak. I just couldn't figure it out until one day he laid an egg. Our biggest and longest living pet was our dog Teddy. Named that because as a pup, he looked like a little teddy bear. His breed was undetermined, but he had beautiful coloring. A little black on the back, fading to a reddish brown on the sides, fading to a white chest. My dad sheared his coat one summer, but he didn't do the head. A little neighbor boy misidentified him as a lion. Life's not easy when you have a bad haircut. At night, the neighbor dog stood sentry duty over the street. As a walker made his way up the street, one by one, the dogs would bark out the warning. The walker approached the hill that was in front of our house. Teddy, the ruggedly handsome, the masculine, confident king of the hill, went to the road and commanded in his deep baritone tone, "Woof, woof, woof." The walker's steps sped up and soon he was over the crest of the hill. Teddy proudly returned to the porch, his duty done, and the street once more saved from the night walker. One day my mom cooked a roast for dinner. It must have smelled irresistible because Teddy grabbed the roast and ran out the back door, my dad in hot pursuit. My dad caught him, wrestled him to the ground, took Teddy's roast, washed and trimmed the roast to look presentable, and served it for dinner. My gosh, that's an embarrassing story. Teddy wasn't too happy with the ending either. We were around other animals, not really pets. In the end, if you eat it, that is not a pet. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Lynn Sky Turner, Patrick Turner, Eber McConnell Jackson. Where are you from? I am from the Gulf of Mexico, stinging sweet salt water, hot white sugary sand, and bright blazing sunshine, dark gray sky with refreshing rainstorms, seductive scent of gardenias, simplicity of the hibiscus, and the aroma of copper-tone sunscreen that did not prevent the second-degree sunburn on my back. The beach was our babysitter as Mom waved goodbye to us for her to have her day to herself. Well, we loved the beach and the freedom and often wondered how we were safe from nothing more than sunburns. I am from my mom, who couldn't be a mom without her mom. I am from my dad, who couldn't be a dad, so he used his gun to kill himself. I am from 3 stepfathers. Some stayed longer than others, and thank goodness they all left. I am from 36 different houses, 16 different schools, 10 different cities, and 3 states by my senior year in high school, of which I graduated when I was 16 years old. And I am from my loving, funny litter of 3 sisters. We played, we cried, we consoled, we slept with, and we protected each other. I am from my mom's mom, Mama, and her girlfriend, Jan. Well, who knew what a lesbian was back in the 1950s at 7 years old? Mama was peace, provider, protection, love. I am from dressing up in a white dress and white gloves as a child and going to church with Mom and my sisters, refusing to speak, shake hands, or give testimony to Jesus, encouraged by my mom. I could not put the opposing forces of supposed peace of the church and the suicide of my father and the violence and sexual abuse that was happening at home. The 2 realities provided me a dual existence that I live with even today internally. At 8 years old, as I was watching my mom with one of her current playmates, I told to myself, I am saving myself for my own children. I am from the 60s, fraught with free love, free drugs, sex and rock and roll, risk and rage. Amazingly surviving the 60s and all that involved, and I mean all. Finally, my deliverance and healing, my first of 3 beautiful children, a child, a clean slate, no ulterior motives, no malice, no intent, a clean relationship of give and take, of love, peace, provider, protection. I am from love to love. I am love. COVID-19 is here, and I am grounded from taking flight, forced to sit with myself, to reflect, to resolve, to manage, to grieve, and to celebrate. At times, it is overwhelming. Terror that I have avoided most of my life is now unavoidable to look at during COVID. It comes at sleep time. My brain downloads like files in a computer, explosive and never ending in the beginning. Now it is a slow drip, terrifying at times, but manageable with help. I have to trust that this time during COVID will pass, trauma-free, and I will be reunited with my children, grandsons, travel, and a safe nursing career. I am just love, to love, from love. I am love. Thank you.
Rosalie. A woman of Cairo. In the late 1990s, my husband, the eternal entrepreneur, took on a year-long project in Cairo, Egypt. As a semi-dutiful wife, marginally adventurous woman, and lover of fourth grade social studies about the pyramids, I promptly took a leave of absence from my job and packed. Traffic in Cairo was horrific. It was a blessing that as part of our employment package, we had a car and driver. I believe there are only 3 traffic lights in all of Cairo, but that was of no consequence as nobody paid any attention to them. Attempting to cross the street took raw courage. And the craze of roundabouts, left from the time the British ruled the world, produced a suicidal tendency in every driver entering one. There was keen awareness of the multitude of donkeys and camels claiming space with motorists. And there was the constant honking of car horns, coupled with the call to prayer 5 times a day that made the noise in the city unending. The noise was only outdone by the sand, not the soft white sand of the Caribbean, but a coarse, dark, heavy sand that oozed into everything. And it became overwhelming when the windstorms bombarded the city for days. When they subsided, you swept and swept endlessly, but the sand never left the streets, your hair, or your lunch. Our 1900s apartment building had a shabby grandeur. There was a marvelous caged elevator in the lobby, surrounded on each side by a curved marble staircase. I had such fun fantasizing I was a glamorous star in a black and white movie on my elevator voyages. My activities and experiences ranged from the profound to the laughable. I learned to count in Arabic by translating the numbers on license plates to our Muslim driver. Food shopping was either at an outdoor market with raw meat hanging from poles and wilted veggies, side by side with luscious pastries and aromatic spices, or a glorified 7-Eleven type store selling mostly Arabic labeled food. Many times I purchased what turned out to be surprise in a can. A saving grace was the expat community's grapevine that telegraphed when these stores carried such delicacies as Maxwell House coffee, a rarity. The drink of choice in Cairo was yellow label Lipton tea, another gift from the British, drunk with lots of sugar. Old men sat in dark, tiny cafes, drinking tea, smoking their shisha water pipes filled with apple tobacco, playing dominoes. Oh, the contrast of my experiences ranged from weekend hikes in the desert to feasting on American hamburgers and French fries at the US Marine Base, to chatter and craft meetings at the Women's Club of Cairo. There we knitted squares to be made into blankets for the children kept in prison with their mothers. An Islamic family helped us understand their customs and rituals. A very special invitation was to the iftar dinner celebrating the end of Ramadan. It resembles our Thanksgiving, with family and friends gathered around mountains of food. Only the bird of choice is pigeon. They cooked hundreds of pigeons that day, as most of it was distributed to the poor. And then there was Miss Wyoming of 1992. A young man at my husband's office had brought his girlfriend to Cairo, the above-mentioned Miss Wyoming of 1992. They were to be married when she converted to Islam. In the meantime, he did not want her to go out alone, Something dreadful would befall her. However, she was bored in her hotel room. My ever-generous husband volunteered me to take her for an outing and beat off molesters, stooped, shriveled hag that I was. The long-legged, blonde beauty queen wanted to buy a trinket in turquoise, as she had been having bad dreams and was told it warded off the evil eye. Off we went to the oldest bazaar in Cairo, with its miles of twists and turns and alleyways. I was petrified I would lose her. It had hundreds of jewelry stalls. She tried on every turquoise bauble in the bazaar. Nothing satisfied Miss Wyoming of 1992. I actually considered losing her. However, I bought a vase. I looked forward to many more unique experiences. But the fear and distrust of the other is so ingrained in the culture. After 3 months, it all came to an abrupt end when my husband's employers learned he was Jewish. Thank you.